Okay, so the root text is, as you have seen, just one page, but the commentaries are like big books. And right now I am teaching this to a special class which he is attending for 1 month, the whole November. So it will take time. So we'll try to go very quickly through it. Otherwise, don't worry about finishing it. Just get some idea. Okay? Now, what we need to know right in the beginning. Right in the beginning, I will greet all of you. Say Tashi Dilek. The Tibetan word Tashi Dilek means may you have auspiciousness and well-being. And that well-being, happiness and auspiciousness is achieved through transforming the mind. So this word Tashi Dilek really shows the whole spiritual path to achieve liberation and to achieve Buddhahood. You will become auspicious by cultivating the positive qualities and reducing and, if possible, removing the negative emotions. That's the only way that you can make yourself auspicious. Right? So it's in your hand. Okay. Now I know you are all probably veterans who must have been attending Buddhist teachings. How many of you have been attending Buddhist teachings? All of you, probably. Anybody new? You are new? Okay, some new also, yeah. So in order to listen to these teachings, you don't have to be a Buddhist. That's number one I want to tell you. Number two, in this so-called developed modern age, why do we need to do spiritual practice in general and especially Buddhist practice in particular? People might think like that. And all you need is collection of all the material facilities given to you by technology and have a nice time going up and down, visiting the malls and, using your very latest shiny mobile gadget and ha-he-hoo. Right? That's most of us doing. That is what we are doing, most of us. So the problem, not only the problem, the multifarious problems that we are facing in the world today is because we have given too much credit to the dictates of the senses and not to the mind. We are enslaved by the dictates of the senses, 5 or 6 senses. The eye wants to see something beautiful. The nose wants to smell something fragrant. The tongue wants to taste something delicious. The body wants to touch something that is soft, right? And the ear wants to listen to something that is melodious. So it is in the pursuit of the needs of these senses, the so-called material development came into being. The big malls sprung up because of your demand, your need, right? And it is because of this chasing after the sensual objects. Dechik lepsta namje kubichik dila. Te kubichik del teda. Okay? So that I want to tell you right in the beginning. So whenever I give talk, I ask these questions to people. Do you all want happiness? So I'm asking you the question also. Do you want happiness? No question about that. For how many days you want happiness? While you are in Dharamsala? How long you want happiness? I've asked this question also. And everybody, either remain silent or they smile, then when I push them further, then they say, yes, we want happiness as long as possible. Please remember this. This is not something that you learned from your college or university or from, the religious text. It is your inborn urge that you want happiness, as long as possible. Remember this. So far, we are all in agreement, right? So at the end of this session, we'll all have to sign. Put your signature, I want long-lasting happiness. I'm joking, something like that has to be done. Now the more complex question is, if you want that long-lasting happiness, how are you going to get it? Want is easy, but how are you going to fulfill that want? What are the main sources of that long-lasting happiness? Now there we need to spend some time and think. And I've asked these questions to many, many people, to many countries, to many people, and they always point towards themselves. Geshe Lhakdor, long-lasting happiness has to come from within. That is true. But what do you mean by that? You need to make it clear. What do you mean? The long-lasting happiness will come from within. But at least that is interesting. Normally we don't live like that. We live as if the long-lasting happiness or whatever will come from outside, by shopping, from your relatives, from your boyfriend, from your girlfriend, from your relatives, right? That's how we live. That's why we are running outside. Everybody says, I'm busy. Busy for what? Busy running up outside to get something, right? Right? But when you sit down and think a little bit, and then when this question is asked, from where do you think is the main source of their long-lasting happiness, then everybody says from within, from inside. So you need to now make this point clear. What do you mean by the long-lasting happiness coming from within? Do you mean that you just think and meditate, don't work, then the dollars will come flying, and then the food will come flying to your side, everything will come? Is that the meaning? Of course not. So what do you mean by the long-lasting happiness coming from within yourself? Primarily, the primary source of long-lasting happiness is from within oneself. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What do you think is the main source of long-lasting happiness? Some people say patience, some people say compassion. People give many different answers. But I need one more concrete answer. What do you think is the concrete answer? The main source of long-lasting happiness. Main source. Little bit happiness, of course, comes from outside, from your friend, from your relatives. There's no denying that fact. But I'm asking you about the main source of that long-lasting happiness. From within, yes. But what do you mean by that? So at least from my point of view, that means how much happiness, well-being you get is primarily dependent upon your mental perspective, your mental attitude, how you see things. Does that make sense? You need to be very clear about that. I'm not saying there is no contributing factor. There are many contributing factors for happiness, for suffering from outside, but the main source, this needs to be thoroughly understood, because much of the suffering that we encounter in this life is almost like self-created suffering, meaning that because of your unhealthy, unwholesome thinking, attitude, you suffer. Right? So whether you really want to be happy or you want to suffer is primarily in your head. That's what I'm saying. There is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. Is there anybody? Can God do that? Can Buddha do that? They are said to be very powerful, very mighty, but they can't do. Very obvious, they can't do. Likewise, even those people who you consider as your sworn enemy, they also cannot catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Can they do that? The Chinese leaders have been very nasty to us. We are kicked out from our country, but they have no power to throw us into hell. They can create a situation which is like hell, which they have done, but they cannot throw us into hell. So whether you go to heaven or hell, it is totally in your head. So this teacher, I'm quoting actually a teacher, Tibetan teacher, who said, there's nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. Similarly, there's nobody who will catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Your happiness and your peace and your suffering, whatever you want to experience, is in your hand. Therefore, do not cheat yourself. Of course, nobody will intentionally cheat oneself, but because we don't know, we don't do the right thing, we keep on doing the wrong thing, that is like cheating oneself. So this Buddhist teaching is basically saying the same thing as we say to a parting friend. When we meet some friend and when they go, then they say, bye, take care. This is what Buddha is saying. Bye, take care. Unless you take care of yourself, nobody in the true sense of the term can take care of you. 100% sure. You may have the best father, best mother, best sister, best wife, best husband, whatever. They are so good, they'll, of course, as much as possible, they'll do something good for you, but they cannot enter into your mind and brain and think for you, and they can't do. They can't do. And not only they can't do, but unfortunately, you can't live with them all the time. Even right now in this gathering, you didn't bring all your relatives and friends with you, did you? Did you bring all your money, wealth with you? No, you can't. This is what the Buddha has been saying. That not only you can't take everything with you when you die, but even when you're alive, you can't take everything with you, especially the material, the physical things. So what you can take with your inner qualities. Your inner qualities. If you have integrity, compassion, loving kindness, patience, courage, determination, all those things are, with you, you are fine. And these inner qualities will never become excess baggage. The material things always become excess baggage. Buddha said this a long time back, don't collect too many things. We did not listen. But now you are taught this lesson in the airport. When you carry more than 15 or 20 clothes, they will say, Madam, sorry, excess baggage, you have to pay for it. This is the result of not listening to the Buddha. Right? So therefore, your constant teacher, constant friend is your inner resources, inner qualities. So therefore, what the Buddha is teaching is to wage a war with the inner negative emotions. The purpose of this practice is to understand the real sworn enemy, the negative emotions, your anger, your jealousy, your negative, all kind of negative emotions, ignorance. They have been your constant enemy for not only for this life, but for many, many lives. They have been your enemy. So the purpose of Buddhist teaching is now to say, enough is enough. This is the time to say enough is enough. The time you cheated me, fooled me, destroyed me is the time gone, because at that time I did not have access to the Buddha's teaching. I did not meet the right teacher. Now I know who you are. You can't bully me anymore. You can't exploit me. That's what you are saying. You personify these negative emotions. So in other words, when you do Dharma practice, what you are basically doing is you are engaging in an election. Now in this case, there are only two parties. The party of negative emotion, party of positive emotion. Now so far, the party of negative emotion won the election. Not only they have won the election, but they got landslide majority. So they are controlling us. The headquarters of our brain is controlled by self-cherishing attitude and ignorance. They are the president and prime minister. And then they are being served by anger and jealousy and negative competition. And So many kinds of negative emotions. Army of negative emotions are supporting them. That's why you are suffering. That's why the world is suffering. Look at what is happening in Middle East, Ukraine and Russia, China and Taiwan. So many places. It's all arrogance, ignorance. And it's because of this ignorance we use this human intelligence in the wrong way. The very intelligence which distinguishes us from animals, we are not able to use it in the right way, we are using it in the wrong way. Wrong way means you use your intelligence to make atom bomb, to make ballistic missiles. How many atom bombs are there today? Over 20,000 atom bombs in the world. The purpose of this atom bomb is only to threaten and try to kill each other. And it will happen because there are so many lunatic leaders. When they're desperate, they'll do anything because they don't care about others. Therefore, you need to listen to this kind of teaching. Because this kind of teaching, the Buddhist teaching says, you don't have to kill people, they will die. This is called wisdom. In the same vein, you can say you don't have to create suffering because everybody is suffering. Everybody has one or the other problem. And it becomes so clear to me once when I accompanied one of His Holiness's personal physician to the Scandinavian countries. I was acting almost like the dispenser, the compounder, the nurse, giving the medicine and helping translate what the doctor says, things like that. So when the ladies and gentlemen, they come for consultation, they all look very nice. They carry a bag here and with, cosmetics on the face, smiling and coming, tag, looks very nice. But when they sit down and do the consultation and then the doctor diagnoses the pulse, asks the question, everybody has at least 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of illnesses. Believe me, this is the truth. So if you understand that situation, then you don't need to create more suffering on others. You need to support them. You need to help them learn the right way of living. Right? 신이라 텍스트 여외 베이그레 인지레 인지 베이가 요르다 베이그레레 테시군이라 바바 베이그란 로거다 단다등에 인지레 제시가 자지로 Okay? Does it make sense? I mean, right now we have over 8 billion human population, right? Over 8 billion, right? All this 8 billion human population, counting from today, all this over 8 billion human population are dead. Counting from today in 100 years, they are all dead. Am I right or wrong? I'm not saying they will be killed by atom bomb and ballistic missiles, all those nasty things are there, but even otherwise, your lifespan is around 100 years. In general, now we are in this gathering, even if I give you, because you all look very nice, so even if I give you a big discount, we will live another 70 years. After big discount. If our average age is, say, 30 years. So we'll live 70 years. Now 70 years means, how about that 70 years you sleep? Then in the day, you have to go up, you have to go down, you have to go shopping, you have to do washing and then eating, things like that. There's really not much time to do the bigger, more important things like transformation of your mind. Right? And if we don't venture out for this transformation of the mind and act as we are acting right now, we are not only not so different from animals, but in many cases we are worse than animals. We need to really think about this carefully. Look at, for example, the pollution that you see in Delhi right now. I'm not talking about something that happened in the past, Delhi and in many big cities all over the world. The amount of pollution of the water and air, such that the place is not fit for living. Who created this? Tigers, lions, snakes, scorpions? Did they create this pollution? Honestly speaking, no, we created the pollution. And it becomes so clear during the COVID-19 that when you are asked to stay within your house and don't venture out, air become pure, water become pure. Even the birds and some of the animals, they started walking freely near your houses, deers, dogs, whatever. We have all witnessed that. So what are we doing with this great intelligence? What are we doing? So even though we have this wonderful, amazing intelligence, but we misuse our intelligence. So the purpose of learning such precious text is to use your human intelligence in the right way and change it into wisdom. Wisdom. We have many examples, like people who use their intelligence transformed into wisdom and served millions of people, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa. Long list of good people. Just one individual can make so much contribution. Now how many of those people are there today? Dictators are flourishing, unfortunately. So it's really a big concern for all of us. So whether it's during election or even otherwise, we need to say no to all these nasty things. The short life that we have is for happiness, for well-being, for enjoyment, to live in harmony. If you do that, we are living such amazing period. You have all the material facilities if you want to enjoy at your access, at your disposal. And then live harmoniously. Don't make this stupid discrimination and segregation. I belong to this country, that country, you are black, white, yellow. So what? We divide people on the basis of skin color. We are all same, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. And we are all same, having the capacity to have that happiness and shun the suffering. And not only that, we are all interdependent, interconnected. Especially in today's world, we are heavily interdependent upon each other. We are hurled into the face of each other through the speed of science and technology. We need to realize this. Now the situation in which we are living today in the world is really like a group of people traveling in a small boat in a turbulent sea. A group of small people traveling in a small boat in a turbulent sea. And your life is at risk. You can't say which country you belong to or make discrimination. And I have seen this myself many times, and I'm sure you have seen this yourself many times. For example, I give you a wonderful example, which you have also experienced. When we take a flight, okay, then we act as if, now everybody is traveling, but there was a time when flying is privilege of rich people. So anyway, still people think flying is good. So when you take a flight and meet all those people at the gate of the entrance of the aeroplane, still, you don't know each other, so there's not much effort to try to smile or talk to each other. You also act like a gentleman, a gentlewoman like that, I'm somebody to be counted, Then you enter the flight, and then the flight takes off. You're in the space now, like a bird, you are flying. And then they'll serve you some dinner or lunch or whatever. And there may be some movie to see also. So far okay, I'm gentleman. Look nice. Then suddenly the pilot makes an announcement saying, ladies and gentlemen, we are entering into the area of turbulence. Tie your belt. Have you experienced that? We are now entering into the zone of turbulence. Tie your belt. As soon as that announcement is made, and as soon as a little bit turbulence starts, You don't need any introduction, who you are. Start looking at the other fellow and start smiling. You see? So that clearly shows when you are in trouble, you need to be with other. You need to live in harmony. You cannot make this stupid division and segregation and exploitation. That's the truth. This is clearly expressed during the COVID-19 experience. When this COVID-19 came, did it make any discrimination who you are? When there is an earthquake, does it make discrimination? When there is an earthquake, will the earthquake say, I'll shake only the Tibetans, not the others who are visiting Dharamsala? It'll shake everybody. So the point that I'm making is, nature does not make discrimination. It is us, the stupid human beings, that makes discrimination because our thinking is so narrow. So therefore, the purpose of listening to such teaching is to broaden your perspective, change your perspective, see how we are interconnected, see how life is, ebbing out, how short the life is, things like that. Right? So even if you don't want to become Buddhist, that's up to you. These messages are so important. This message is important because if you look at the history of the Buddha and some of the saints living at that time, in India, for example, around this time, there were so many small principalities, small kings ruling small principalities in small towns and cities, whatever. Then gradually some of the kings who are much more powerful, they control another principality, become bigger and bigger like that. And when that place become bigger, the town become bigger, the city become bigger, all unhealthy practices crept in. Robbery, theft, prostitution, all these bad things came. And then some of the thinking people like Buddha and others said, oh my God, what is happening right now? Let us go into the forest and think and find a solution. If you see the history of the Buddha from a pragmatic way, this is what the Buddha did. This is what some of the saints living at that time did. And they came with this solution. Therefore, the teaching that they give is not only for short-term pleasure, short-term happiness, but long-term happiness. This is not a 3-year plan, or 5-year plan, or 10-year plan. It's many lives plan. So they are very, very... I'm saying this because I spent my whole life in the Tibetan Buddhist community. And I'm not saying I'm a great practitioner, I'm not saying I'm a scholar, but I'm quite familiar with these teachings. That enables me to see with the conviction that if you study and practice this, you will shine out. You will be happy. And as I said, I'm nobody. I'm not a great practitioner, not a scholar. But even with my teaching, I met many young people who I never met. And then in one of the teachings, when they are there, they come to me at the end, weeping and crying, saying, Geshe-la, you have not seen me before, but I listened to you, to your online teachings, and your teaching helped me come out of depression, come out of suicidal tendency. Why this is happening? This is not happening because I have some magic power or I'm very special, but the teaching is magical, transformative. And this clearly shows that much of the problem, depression, loneliness, low self-esteem, all these are because of your own thinking. You are creating it because you don't know anything better. When you listen to it, then, oh yeah, why I have been unnecessarily suffering. Now I should not do this. I'll come out. You see? So it's a question of learning. So therefore we are using this text, mind training. You need to train your mind, understand the reality. Just as you can learn mathematics, you can learn meditation, you can learn mind training, mindfulness, things like that. So they are extremely, extremely useful. I mean, look at the Tibetan history, how much they have suffered in the hands of mistreatment of Chinese government. But how much these Tibetan refugees are relatively, I'm not saying they are special, but how they are flourishing in a sense. Even after remaining as a refugee, they are doing quite well. This is one, because good leader like His Holiness Dalai Lama. Then good culture, you see. There are not many Tibetans suffering from depression and loneliness. Very less. This is because of the culture, because of the religious teaching. So we all need this. We all need this. Especially in the West, we need it. Because during the COVID-19, it became so clear that there was more kind of suicide and killing and suffering in the so-called developed countries than in the undeveloped countries. Like we really thought now India, how they are going to deal with this COVID-19. Yes, they made some difficult decisions, so because of that many people died. But otherwise, even in the poor remote villages, because they live in such a difficult situation, they are very familiar with all this kind of bugs. They've been fighting. They don't value in 5-star hotel, luxurious hotel, where everything is disinfected, They're not like that. They're always struggling and living with this all kind of bugs. So they are steady, they are strong. So it did not affect them much. But in many Western countries who, number one, lived in this luxurious life, supposed to be very clean, and no bug, no virus, and suddenly this virus came, they have no this defensive mechanism in their body physically also, mentally also. Normally, in the West, we all know, you spend your time, you hardly cook in your room, in your house, you're always socializing, dinner with friends, lunch with friends, You don't know how to live alone. That's the tragedy today. The tragedy today is we don't know how to live alone and also don't know how to live with others. That's the tragedy. So when during the COVID-19, because of the lockdown, you're asked to stay alone, people do not know how to live alone. Am I making it up? Or is this true? I hope it is true in many cases. So they don't know how to live alone. And it's because of this, many people, when I give such teaching, they say, Geshe, do you live alone? I say, yes, I live alone. Then they say, are you happy? I say, I am happy. How can you be happy if you live alone? You see? So there's the mental attitude. There's the mental attitude. So much can be learned through this kind of teachings. Okay, so this is just... so in this, let us look at this kind of chart. Training the mind in the 7 points by CHEKHAWA. Many people say this text is actually written by Atisha. And then later on, some little bit changes here and there are made. Whatever, now this is published in the name of this great Geshe CHEKHAWA. 7 points mind the mind training. So the 7 points are on the right side, all of them. The first point is the preliminaries to mind training. Second is the main practice, training the mind in Bodhichitta. Third, transforming adversity, bad circumstances into the path of awakening. Fourth, integrating the practice into our daily life. Fifth, the measure of science of proficiency, success in mind training. Sixth, the commitments, discipline of mind training. Then the 7th is the precepts, guidelines of mind training. So these are the 7 points, right? So now the first is the preliminaries in the mind training. The preliminaries in the mind training is kind of groundwork that you need to do. If you want to do any spiritual practice, you need to do some preliminary practices or develop some preliminary understanding. So the understanding is, the meaning of preliminary practice is to reflect on the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards enlightenment. If you think about these 4 points, your mind will turn from the samsara, cycle of existence, to liberation, to enlightenment. Number 1, appreciating the precious human life. This is something like I have been talking right in the beginning. Recognize this precious human life. In Christianity, we call this life the crown of creation, right? Right? In Christianity, crown of creation. In Buddhism, we call this human life precious human life. Generally speaking, when we say precious human life, it means that you have this very special intelligence. by which you are able to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, what is good for you and what is good for others, right? We have that capacity. We have that capacity, right? Animals don't have that capacity, right? So therefore, recognize this precious human life. Compare your human body or human life to that of animals. Our being able to stand erect. How many animals are there? They're able to walk on 2 feet, standing erect, take a selfie. How many are there? Other animals? Any animals? If you read science, you will know that how much effort we made to be able to stand erect. Anyway, now we are able to stand erect, hands free. This long arm, hands free, is for hugging. This nice fingers for shaking hand. How are you? It's not for hitting. It is not for pulling the trigger of a gun. Right? And then look at the eyes. The eyes, especially when you develop more affection and love to your children, your eyes become like the eyes of deers. Little bit slender. Love comes from within, so the mind also becomes a little bit smaller. You go deep inside and you express that love. We have that capacity. But when you are angry, your eyes also become round like a snake. When you don't study, don't reflect, don't think, your eyes will become the eye like that of a sheep. Right? So then look at your teeth. Being able to open your mouth and smile and show the nice teeth. How many animals have this capacity? Only human beings have this capacity. We have amazing facilities. Amazing facilities. I can keep on, talking about all these amazing facilities. So the point is, and then the most important thing is, as I said, this intelligence, being able to make correct decision, provided if you use your thinking power, if you use your brain, if you use your intelligence. But unfortunately, most of us don't use our brain. We just follow the crowd. That's the problem. We just follow the crowd. Because if you follow the crowd, you will go to hell. Because majority of the people, they go to hell, right? Right? Majority of the people go to heaven or hell. We should use the word hell or heaven or not. Majority of the people go to that direction, which is not so good. Right? Am I right? Somebody said, don't worry in your life. Either you will remain healthy or you will die. Either you will remain healthy or you will become sick. If you remain healthy, there is no need to worry. If you become sick, then this is something that you need to think about. Now if you become sick, either you will die or you will recover. If you recover, no need to worry. Now if you don't recover, if you die, then this is something to think about. Then it says if you die, either you will go to hell or you heaven. If you go to heaven, no need to worry. Of course. Now what about if you go to hell? Then it says if you go to hell, you do not need to worry because all your friends are already there. Waiting for you. Hello, how are you? When did you reach here? Things like that. This is something like a joke, but it's really something true. So majority of our friends may be there, you see. So the point I'm making is, don't join the crowd, especially in doing unhealthy things. You should have that capacity and the courage to say no to bad things. Or follow Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement. At least, even if you don't want to say anything, just don't follow, don't do that. Normally we decide by saying, especially in the so-called democratic country, democratic means government by the people, and people are uneducated. don't think. Majority of people don't think. That's why these politicians are able to manipulate them so easily. Right? So therefore it's important to make one's own decision by thinking properly. Because if you start suffering, nobody can help you in the true sense of the term. In a fair weather kind of situation, you have so many friends. When you are prospering, you have money, you have name, you have fame, so many people will be there near you. But when your name and fame, starts waning, less and less friends, less and less people. This is, Hindi में बोलता है ना करवा सच. This is the bitter truth. This is the bitter truth. Even your so-called brothers, sisters, even your parents, your sons and daughters, they will not be there. Unfortunately, this is the situation. So therefore, you need to take care of yourself. And even if your motivation is to help others, the first thing you need to do is help yourself. It's only by helping yourself you will be helping others. It's only by helping others you are helping yourself. This is the law. Okay? So therefore, first you recognize this precious human life that you have obtained today. And don't take it for granted that you will obtain the same human life again and again. At least according to Buddhism, there is no permanent evolution towards good things. It can go down also. There's no guarantee that you will next life you will not be born as a cow or a dog or even mosquito. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee. So therefore, right now, this is the time to do good things so that your life becomes better and better every time, and then gradually you reach liberation and finally enlightenment. That's a long process, not easy to understand, long process. But the only thing that is source of courage is that the human mind is such, the more you train it, it can be trained. It can become better. You will become Buddha or not, that's difficult, but the one thing that's really good for is, if you move towards Buddhahood and make that effort, every month, every year, you become better and better, happier and happier like that. That's 100% sure. So that at least shows that you can keep on going, becoming better and better. And the mind is such a thing, such an energy, that which can really, if you properly understand it and handle it properly, it can create miracles. Even if you're living amidst poverty, challenges, hardships, difficulties, still you will be happy. So therefore, some of these mind training teachers, they have a prayer. They say, if I am not going to live very long and going to die tonight, wonderful. When they say wonderful, don't think they are pessimistic. They are not pessimistic. They are saying this because they say, if I am going to die very soon and not going to live very long, it's good, because I will not keep on living and committing negative deeds, in that sense. Then in the same vein, they say, if I am not going to die in the next few days and going to live a very, very long, healthy life, wonderful. Because I'll live a very, very healthy, long life and do all the good things. So that means whatever befalls on you, it's fine. It's fine. You know how to transform misfortune into the path. If there's a rain, then they'll say, wonderful, it's good for crop. If there's no rain, they'll say, wonderful, I'll go for a walk outside. Whatever. They'll not keep on sitting there complaining all the time. People who don't have that right perspective, they keep on complaining. If there's rain, they will curse the rain. This damn rain. This is not the time to rain. And if there's no rain, they will again curse. If the sun is too hot, they will curse. Right? So, if you keep on, developing such a negative attitude, the rain will never say, Madam, sorry, I will not now rain more. The sun will never say, oh, it's too hot, okay, I'll make it. The sun is not an air condition, which you can change with your thinking. So it's your attitude, your attitude. But if you have the right attitude means, for example, when you meet different people, many people you may be meeting for the first time, but the first knowledge that you have is, okay, these are all human beings like me, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. So I don't know the details about them, but I'm sure they also have their ups and downs in their life. They may have family problems. They have, this problem, that problem. So just with their thinking, you feel connected to them. You share their concern, responsibility. And the very manner you talk to them will be different. There's no need for formal introduction. I'm somebody, I'm Geshe Lhakdor, I'm somebody big, I am professor. These are stupid titles, It does not change you at all. But you're just ordinary human being. Right? Ordinary human being. The others also similar human beings, wanting happiness. In my case, what I try to do is when I even see, not always I'm not successful, but it comes in my mind, something like that. When I play with small children, I feel very happy, but at the same time very concerned. I'm not a parent, but still I feel concerned. What will be their future? What are they going to do? What kind of ups and downs they are going to face? Especially when I see their little hand, I feel heavily moved. And especially when I see this little hand begging. In New Delhi, you meet so many people. I came across so many small kids with disabled hair and then little hand begging, It's really unfortunate. So then later on when you meet elderly people, I see the same face in the elderly people also. They are so-called grown-up, but I can see the innocence even in the elderly people. I visited over 30 countries in the world, and ordinary people are basically, they are all nice people. All they want is good family, some income to sustain themselves. They don't want to go to war and kill each other. Some of these stupid leaders are doing all this. Right? So therefore, as I said, we are like traveling in that small turbulent boat, We should learn this and be kind. And as soon as you develop a little bit of compassion, a little bit of kindness, a little bit of love, the face also becomes a little bit different. This is what I'm saying. Your mind is the maker. Your mind will either make your destiny or mar your destiny. You see, when you like somebody, the skin color doesn't matter. That person becomes attractive. When you don't like somebody, then somehow your mind changes, almost like changing the skin of that person, This person, oh, is this the way she is looking at me? Is this the way he is looking at me? You are very apprehensive, unnecessarily having so much doubt, you see. So that creates barrier to help each other, talk to each other. So your attitude, your perspective is so important. So therefore, you should develop this awareness that you have today obtained this very, very precious human life. Don't waste it. That's number one preliminary practice. The second preliminary practice is, even though you have obtained this very precious human life, but when you are going to die, nobody knows. Death and impermanence. Impermanence, anything that is produced by causes and conditions, they are not going to last long. They are going to change. They are going to disappear. Be it your house, be it your car, be it your jewelry, be it your relative, your friend, and then of course yourself. You will also die. Right? Now why should we think about death? Ordinary people who are not familiar with this kind of practice, even when you use the word death, they say, oh, why you are using this inauspicious word? They are scared. They are scared because they don't want to die, which is unrealistic. Nobody wants to die, but at least accept that death is going to come. So in that sense, you should accept it and get ready for that. If we are to go to America, we make sure that the flight is booked and it's confirmed. So something like that for the long journey, for future life. When death comes also, you should make much better preparation than confirming your flight ticket. Right? So this preparation you need to do long time before. So this is what we are doing also when you do Dharma practice. Okay. Then the good thing, I'll tell you this. After Buddha got enlightened, he was requested by the gods and the celestial beings to give his nectar-like teaching. Okay? Then the Buddha said, I found something which is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. Mark each of these words that I'm using. They are very profound. I found something. I obtained something that is profound, peaceful, free from elaboration and fabrication, clear light, unconditioned. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. So don't disturb me. I'm going to continue my meditation. He did not accept the teaching right away. And then few more requests were made. And then finally when he gave the teaching, he gave the famous teaching called the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, which means we have suffering. Suffering comes from cause. We want happiness. Happiness comes from cause. Seemingly very simplistic, very easy to understand, but very, very profound. Because Buddha was watching how people are leading their life. And he found, to summarize, he found that people want happiness, they are not getting enough. People don't want suffering, but they are getting suffering, lot of suffering. Then the Buddha said, if they want happiness, why don't they find out the causes for happiness and cultivate it? If they don't want suffering, why don't they find the causes of suffering and reduce it and eliminate it? So this is very, very important. This is what he taught. And then when he was giving the first of the Four Noble Truths, the first was the truth of the suffering. When he was giving the teaching on the truth of the suffering, he spoke about it with 4 features. And the first feature was impermanence, death. By that he was saying that if you don't understand this impermanence, death, you will never make a move. Ab hilega hi nahi. You will never make a move. You will never make a move. If you plan to live here forever, why should you move? You try to buy more cars, more furnitures, have more swimming pools, whatever. Plan. That's what we are all doing. It's okay, you have certain facilities, but don't plan to live forever. Now we are repeatedly hearing the stories of people. I heard the story of one Chinese woman who seems to be very, very rich. So she wanted to build a house which is almost like a celestial mansion. And she completed that. And after having completed this beautiful mansion, she was diagnosed, as suffering from cancer. And she could not believe that. I can't believe that I spent so much money and built this beautiful house. Now I can't live in here. Because that was unrealistic. What she was thinking was unrealistic. Then there is a story of another person who built a similar kind of mansion. And the next day, the family is about to move to that building. But that night, the building caught fire and destroyed. And his friends went to console his friend and family and said, you spent so much money, built this beautiful house, everything is a loss. We are very sorry about that. He said, no, nothing. My family is all right. That's good enough. You see? So you are more important than these furniture, these buildings, these cars, you see? And especially your mind, what you think, is much, much, much more important than your material collections. Right? So death, now let me give you an example, although I touched all this already. I tell this story repeatedly, which is found in one of the mind training texts. That text talks about story of 3 criminals who were caught and to be executed tonight at, let us say, 10 p.m. Right? What is time right now? 7? Huh? 6? 6:20. Okay, these three criminals will be executed at 10 p.m. So let us say these three criminals are there on this stage in front of us. So what should we expect from these criminals? They have only 3-4 hours to live, right? So how should they live together in these 3-4 hours? Engage in corruption, exploitation, bullying. If they do this in front of us, what would you feel? If you have a very delicate heart, you might even shed tears. How come these people have only 3-4 hours to live and still they are engaging in such destructive acts? Right? The only thing that is sensible is that they should console each other, do some prayers, do some meditation, or some good thoughts, That's natural. It will come automatically, naturally like that. Right? It doesn't make sense to do anything disruptive, destructive, negative, right? Is that clear? They have 3 hours. How many hours? How many years we have? We are more or less in a similar situation, where we may be living a little bit longer. So during this short life, the remaining years, is not for corruption, not for exploitation, not for bullying, but the remaining years or months, whatever is there, is for inspiring others, encouraging others, contributing towards well-being and happiness of others, and which you can do. When I say this, I'm not saying that if you keep on distributing your money, I'm not saying that. That's one way, but even otherwise. Just show your smile. Just talk to people. Just be nice. They will change their life. I'll tell you one story. When I was working with His Holiness in his office, one day a black lady came in the reception. So normally something spiritual related questions, things like that, then the office will dumb me down. Geshe, you go. So I go down as if I have all the solutions and answers and treatments. It's my responsibility. So I went down. So this black woman, she came with her little son, maybe 6-7 years old. Then she started telling the story, long story. I listened. Few minutes she continuously told the problem. I listened. And then after that, when I was about to say something to her, you know what she said? I don't need anything from you, but I'm very thankful to you. You are the first person that listened to my problem. So you don't have to do anything. And she cried. That's what I'm saying. So sometimes there's people suffering from loneliness, depression. Just lend your ear. Listen to them. That will give them courage. Then they will think, okay, humanity is not that bad. There are still good people. Humanity, as somebody said, humanity is like a big ocean. So in that big ocean, there are all kinds of animals are there, but good ones are also there. Right? And that big ocean cannot become dirty by the wrongdoings of few people. Right? So therefore, you always have this capacity to make some people feel better and happier. That is Dharma practice. That's Dharma practice. We all have that capacity. Right? So, thinking about death and impermanence. When you think about that, then you will automatically understand what is it that is of meaning and value to me. At the time of the death, your relatives and friends cannot come with you, sure, 100%, right? You cannot bring your money with you, right? When you came into this world, at least you came with your body. But when you die, there is a tough screening. security check. They'll say, you can't take this body with you. Even this body you have to leave behind. Right? We fear death. Why do we fear death? We fear death because we have so much obsession. If you reduce this obsession with your body, there will be no fear. Right? And in a way, we die every day. The so-called being alive is just one instant. And people don't understand this. This is what has been taught by a very famous Indian teacher called Aryadeva. In his beautiful text called 400 Verses, he says, whoever you are, the so-called being alive is just one instant. And people don't know this. So therefore there are not many people who understand themselves. You are dying. Every day, every moment, you are changing. So much so, now scientists are saying that there's so much change continuously that after 7 years, everything has been completely changed. So there's this story of a criminal who was imprisoned, and he remained in the prison for 7 years because he had heard about this scientific, knowledge. Therefore he said, now already I'm in the prison for 7 years, I'm a completely different person, so let me go. Okay. So that's the second preliminary. The third preliminary is the law of karma, cause and effect. That means what you do, you will reap. If you do good, good things will be the result. If you do bad things will be the result. If you fight violently with somebody, then expect happiness. No. Do we have the right to do anything that you want to do? Do you have the right to do anything that you want to do? Yes, you have. Bad things, good things, you have the right to do. But when you do those so-called right things and bad things, also think about the consequences. If you're prepared to face the consequences, then do all the nasty things that you want to do. But you will not escape from the consequences. That is the law of karma. This law of karma. You cannot fight with somebody and then make friendship with that person. Right? You can't plant a, rice seed and then expect mango. This is law of karma. This is what the Buddha is saying. Law of karma. Understand that. There's no cheating. Police, administration, you can cheat. But law of karma, you can't cheat. Because when you think something, it leaves an imprint in your mind. It's like recording something on a tape recorder. On a tape, you record few things. Number one, you record a beautiful song. Maybe 2-3 nice songs, very nice, beautiful melody of songs. Then after that, you record people fighting and shouting, yelling. Right? So after having recorded that, if you look at the tiny ribbon, can you see what is recorded there? Can you see? Can you see? Huh? You can't see. But you are not being able to see doesn't mean it is not there. How will you know that? Put it in the tape recorder again and push the play button. When you push the play button, you will hear what you have recorded. Good songs, you have recorded good songs, you will hear those melodious songs. If you have recorded fighting and yelling, you will hear that. It's like that. It's like that. Right? When we form a habit, then that habit continues. Positive habit, negative habit. So negative habit brings suffering, therefore we need to change it. That's what the Buddha is saying. Law of karma. Then disadvantages of samsara. Uncontrollably recurring rebirth. Disadvantages of samsara means this present life. Samsara means cycle of existence, with strong negative emotion. You die, you are born, things like that, Is it 100% amazing? The life in samsara. In other words, it's saying that you should see some of the problems, disadvantages. Disadvantages are, you're going to get sick, you're going to die, you're going to get separated from your dear and near ones. Right? So these are the problems. And then there are many problems. One problem is the obvious sufferings, headache, diarrhea, all those so many things that you get. Then there is a second kind of suffering which you don't see clearly, which is there. For example, you're sitting here. I did not force you with a gun and saying that please come and attend my teaching, right? But you came with some kind of, willingness, right? So because of that, I do hope you are enjoying. But you will enjoy only the duration of an hour and a half, which is what you read in the advertisement. And probably you're not so much prepared to go beyond that. Okay, so now if I insist and say that, okay, it's wonderful that you came, it's difficult to meet with Dharma teaching, this is very important, opportunity, we have to really undergo some hardship, so I'm going to teach until 1 p.m., so you need to sit. Just by that word, you will get neck pain or back pain or knee pain. This is how the mind functions. This is how the mind functions. So in other words, the so-called happiness that you had enjoyed after having entered in this room, gradually when it's prolonged, it shows its true color. It changes into something you want to get out. Similarly with the lunch, you are very hungry and go and eat, the bread. First piece of bread, very delicious. Second, also good. Third, little bit less. But how much you can eat? If you force yourself more, then in economics, what we call as the law of marginal utility comes. And then instead of enjoying, you will start vomiting. So that is to say that the so-called happiness that we are enjoying in ordinary world is only reduction of suffering. It's not real happiness. If it is real happiness, then the more you enjoy, the more it should be long-lasting. But that is not. When in terms of your friendship with others, in terms of the wealth you enjoy, it's not durable. Right? So therefore, think about the disadvantages of samsara. That means, if you are living in a place where your neighbors are not good, where the town is not good, where the city is not good, there's too much fighting, too much killing, what will you do? When you see all those disadvantages, problems in that place, then you will think about moving to some other country. Otherwise, you will plan to stay there. So, we plan to stay in the samsara because we don't know the limitation of the samsara. So, you need to know the reality, the limitations and problems of the samsara. All right. What is time now? 6 what?
6:35.
6:35. Okay. Finishing the text is not that important. Let us do some interaction, ask some questions. Any question that you have. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but it is important to discuss. Yes. Yeah. Any questions?
I'm new.
Yeah.
I would love to make a question.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. And forgive me if does this work? Yes. Forgive me if my question is, not very deep, but from what you've been talking about, right? Appreciating the precious human life.
Yes.
In all its aspects is very beautiful, and then, of course, a human life, the samsara is bound to our human life, right? This is where we experience it. So the Four Noble Truth, on one side we have this appreciation of this human life, but at the same time we recognize it's bound to samsara. So I want to understand how to, let's say, bring both of these under one.
Clever question. Yes, we have problems, difficulties, But that does not mean to say that you can't come out from the quagmire of the samsara. You can come out. You still have the capacity. That's what it is saying. Acknowledging that you have limitations, you have difficulties, but if you make the effort, you can do it. You can do it. You are in the prison, but if you make effort, you can come out from the prison. That's what the text is saying. You see?
It's really saying appreciating, right? There's something beautiful, there's something wonderful about our human experience.
Yes, yes.
About this samsara bound life. There's something like just suffering, right? So appreciate it.
Yeah, true.
You appreciate it.
True.
If it was just suffering.
True. So that's true. But what we are saying is, this is a very good question. What I never said life is just suffering. Did I say that? I didn't say that. I said life has suffering. Life has problems. At the same time, I also said precious human life. Appreciate it. Okay? So that means suffering is something that you don't want, happiness is something that you want. And since you have obtained this precious human life, you have the capacity to reduce this suffering and to come out from the bondage of the suffering, bondage of the samsara. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I feel like singing. Any other questions? Yes, there. Namji. Yeah.
Just a bit on like
Yeah.
good evening, all of you. Yesterday, so myself, in fact, I'm from this place only. So I'm practicing not Buddhist, but I'm follower of Buddhism. So just I want to tell about ask about 8 Ashtangik mark in Hindi we call. So my Geshe is saying how we have to view our life. So I focus on the right view primarily, just to keep my life very beautiful, how to see the things, how to perceive the things. That makes your life beautiful. So majorly, before coming here, I was doing work in some department. This message of Buddha, Lord Buddha, in my workplace also. Then I try to make my colleagues, my friends, like you guys. So by practicing this way, they also give me good responses. So that way, I also try to make myself happy, and also I try to make my colleagues happy and a happy atmosphere.
Very good.
So this is what I feel to practice the teachings of Buddha in that way. Geshe has beautifully said how we have to perceive things. That should bring us change in our
Very good.
life.
Yes. Thank you. You're sharing your personal experience.
Yes.
Since some months I see him around the library studying here, and he always has this smiling face.
Yeah, one more thing I have to tell you. I said this is my inborn quality. I don't know.
Wonderful.
So whenever I walk in the corridors of my office, so everybody says, "Oh, you always smile like this."
Yeah.
So this is my inborn quality. That
Wonderful.
if somebody is feeling happy,
Yes.
seeing a beautiful smiling face,
Yes.
I really rejoice it.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Yeah.
Geshe, you were talking about moving out
Yeah.
of a place
Yeah.
when it gets too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, how should we balance staying in an uncomfortable situation to train our mind
Yes.
and know when we should move to a
Yes,
different
yes.
place because it's getting too much?
Yes. You people are asking very difficult questions. And this is a very good question because life is the question of life is really balancing. sometimes it is important to move out, but moving out doesn't mean that you hastily make a decision, because the grass is greener on the other side. But when you reach other side and look back, then the place from where you came from looks better. So don't make a quick decision, think properly, okay, think properly. And then see, as an ordinary person, how much you are able to tolerate, you see. You can't push yourself to the limit, okay. If you are an enlightened person, then of course, wherever you go, the place is fine for you. But we are ordinary person. So, don't just run away quickly, because the other place where you're going to run may be worse than where you're living. That's also possible. So think carefully before you make any decision. Okay? Then a little bit of problem will always be there. So don't be too touchy, too unnecessarily sensitive, If you are very, very sensitive, unnecessarily sensitive and touchy, you will be harmed by everything, When I give this kind of talk sometimes to the students, Tibetan students, before these days I don't know, but some of them always go, Geshe-la, I'm harmed by a ghost. What should I do? Then I tell them that number one, the ghost is not unemployed bunch of people. They're looking somebody to harass and exploit and bully. They're also occupied with their own destiny, their own work. So don't think they're the so-called ghost or dungde, are a bunch of, evil spirits, unemployed and looking for vulnerable people. It's not like that. Here the important point to note is, when your mind becomes weak, you are harmed by the ghost. You are harmed by the COVID-19. You are harmed by the virus. When you are weak, people will bully you. Ghost will harm you. Virus will attack you. So that means you are weak. So what you need to do is strengthen your mind. Strengthen your health, physical health. Improve your defensive mechanism. That's the solution. Right? Okay? Any other? Yes. Oh, my song is really working. Yeah. Huh?
Looking at the other preliminaries, accumulating merits and purifying negativities and relying on the guidance of spiritual guides, there's two things that can happen, I guess. One is when you talk about we're always in this alone and we have to make the changes ourselves. That seems to be a fairly solitary and focused pursuit. But at the same time, there's a lot of teaching, and this includes it in this particular teaching, of relying on spiritual guides. So that isn't always possible to have as a balance. You don't always have a spiritual guide. And so how possible is it for you to do this yourself,
So that's why in the beginning you need to rely on teacher, qualified teacher. And gradually, when you understand the meaning of the teaching that's being taught, then you need to practice in isolation. Therefore the Buddha said, I have shown you the path to liberation. Liberation is up to you. And elsewhere he said, I'm your teacher, you have to act. You will fail, and you will fail miserably. As simple as that. So in the beginning, you need to, because just by using your intelligence, you can't fathom the depth of these teachings. Right? So those teachers who have studied this text for many, many years, especially some of the practitioners, they know the depth and vastness of those subjects. So listen to them. And then gradually, you should become independent. You should be able to think for yourself. That doesn't mean you can never again consult the teacher. You, of course, on and off you can consult the teacher, but you need to do your homework. Right? And we are ordinary people. So therefore, situation, circumstance, teacher, all these facilitating factors are very, very important. This morning I was reading probably this text where it says you need to find a qualified teacher, you need to live in an environment where food and clothing and other facilities are easily available. All those factors are necessary. So in the beginning, when your mind is not ready, you can't say, oh, I give up my food, I give up my clothing, Somebody actually did this at the time of Milarepa. He was so inspired. Have you heard about this great yogi called Milarepa? If you read this, your mind will be completely blasted. You can't imagine that such a person lived on this earth. We use this phrase with Mahatma Gandhi saying, somebody who walked in bone and flesh, we can't believe such a person happened in the case of Mahatma Gandhi. But if you read the life story of this yogi, who suffered so much in the beginning, then he entered into tantric practice, he used black magic, killed people, then he developed strong repentance, practiced very hard, was able to fly, and amazing. And then the spiritual songs were coming out automatically from his mouth because of his having control over his energy and all those things. So these days, luckily, we can read those 100,000 songs of Milarepa. And his life story is also there now in English available. So read that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So why I was saying this? I forgot.
Because we need a teacher?
Yeah, so you need a teacher. But at the end, he also had Marwa as his teacher. But then gradually, of course, he practiced and achieved that state. Right?
I think you wanted to tell about some things I tried to do similar to Milarepa.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. That's why you are right. So therefore, there was a guy who was living at his time. He was so impressed by Milarepa. He said, "Oh, I also want to act like Milarepa." So on the spot, he threw away all his belongings. After 2-3 days, he started suffering because he's not Milarepa. And then he said, with great regret, he said, "Also made me a beggar." So if you try to do something when you're not prepared, that will be the consequence. So that's why the Buddha taught the middle way, moderation.
Does that imply, Geshe-la, that if you get to a point where you have studied with a teacher and you are working a lot yourself, that you will need to be isolated a lot, I guess, to really, really focus and to really make
Yes.
progress, or can you skip that?
No, isolated means not necessarily moving into mountain, but maybe it may be your room, live in isolation, which I know you are doing. You're doing. In Dharamsala, I've seen her living in isolation. Very, very good isolation. She hardly comes out. So I thought, she's living very close to me, so I thought, oh, I have a very good neighbor. I'm also fond of isolation, she's fond of isolation. So you're doing pretty well. So no need to move into a mountain, okay? But then, it is also taught in the text that even when you move into isolation, that place of isolation should be not so far from other great spiritual teachers. The place of isolation should not be a place where there is a ferocious animals roaming around, Okay? And where it is very difficult to get your food, and where there is no spiritual teachers to consult. So it should not be too far away. Okay? No, come on, just do. Okay. Still we have 10 minutes. Yes, sir.
Why is it so hard to forgive, especially those who at some point were like very close to you, who you feel like have wronged you? Like, how do you get over that?
Because we don't know how to forgive. Because we don't know, not forgiving is not only not harming to that person, it's harming you.
Internally, yeah.
Yeah, internally.
The only harm that it's doing is
To you, exactly. So unless you are very, very stupid. We are all stupid in a sense. We are all stupid, really. That's what His Holiness, the Dalai Lama is teaching. His Holiness said, let us have dialogue and negotiation with the Chinese leaders. don't develop ill will, hatred, animosity. If you develop this, it will only harm you and not the Chinese leaders. For example, if I try to gather your support and bang the table and say all the nasty things about the Chinese leaders and become angry here in this small hall, we are suffering. The Chinese leaders have no idea what we are doing. They may be, sipping a nice cup of coffee or watching a movie, So that's self-torture. So therefore, we say, forgive, but don't forget the names. Don't forget the names doesn't mean for revenging,
Right.
but simply recognizing bad things are bad things, but it's like a dream, The dream is over, okay, now forget. And then especially the healing part is pray for the goodness of that person. Because there was a time when you have been very close to that person. You thought you were the hand and glove friend, did so many beautiful things. Now, because of certain situation, you change and you don't like each other, but they recall those things. I actually had this experience. There was one lady, from which country, I don't know, one lady, when I was working in his office, this lady came to me, and then she said, I came to you because you speak English, you understand our mentality, I'm in a big problem. I said, what is the big problem? The big problem is my teacher is mistreating me, trying to molest her. So many stories are there. She was in deep pain. Then I said, okay, in the beginning when you met, he has been very kind, right? She said, yes. So remember that part, that he has been very kind, thankful. Now remember this part also. Now here you are not very good, so I cannot continue. It's like divorcing. Say, sorry, I can't continue. And then I told her that the problem is really, for me, the problem is not so much with you and your teacher, but with you and with your husband. Does your husband know about this? She said, yes. Is he still supporting? He said, he is still supporting me. Then you're fine. Just forget the teacher. Go. You don't have to tie your neck with somebody, even if they're mistreating you, not one time, two times, but for a long, long time. No. So don't follow this, some of the, I should not say stupid, teachings, but in some of the teachings they say, you follow the guru, you follow the teacher. If you don't follow, do whatever he says, you will go to Vajra hell. That is in a special context, not with everybody. How can you say that you have to listen to me all the time? If you don't listen to me, you go to Vajra hell. Many people start thinking, this may be true. We are so stupid. That's why I was saying, use your common sense. Khopri istemal karo. Use your common sense, right? So when you don't feel comfortable, okay, say bye, okay.
One more.
Yeah.
Second. So my son is not here, but he tends to believe like the only way to learn about Buddhism or spiritualism is to be in India. So we live in the US, and it's almost like he's running away from his college, his studies and all. That seems irrational to me on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, if that's what he's looking for, maybe that's the right path for him, maybe that's the right decision. Even though it doesn't feel like you can't learn about all these things from thousands of miles away, why does physical location have any bearing to it?
Just this morning I met somebody who said, Geshe, I'll come to study Buddhism in Dharamsala. I said, not necessary. You can come, of course, there is a special atmosphere because His Holiness is there, things like that, but there is no guarantee that it will be much, much better than in some other place. Okay, so what you should suggest? I've been seeing these kind of people so many times. So I tell them, be realistic, As I mentioned about moving from one place to another place, the grass is greener on the other side, you go there, it's not so different, You'll find that everywhere. We are all human beings, you see. So it will be good for that, young boy to come and spend 1 month, 2 months, like that. Then continue his own study, his own work. Be realistic. Otherwise you will become like that person who imitated Milarepa. You see? Many people, they don't plan, don't think. I had a difficulty with many people who come like this. I have many stories. I'll tell you one. When I was teaching in Delhi, one young man came and he said, my teacher told me to go to a center in Kathmandu. What is your suggestion? And then I said, do you have wife? He said, yes. Do you have kids? He said, yes. Okay, now I know you better. Since you asked me, I give you my suggestion, but I'm nobody, I'm not your teacher. Your teacher told you to go to that center. My common sense says, don't go to that center. Your first job is to look after your family. You are basically running away from your family responsibilities in the name of Dharma. Don't do that. Don't do that. Either you move with all your family to serve there, or your religious practices, looking after your family. Then, of course, as and when you have time, go for 2 months, 3 months to do some service, then come back and serve your family. So today we find many people, they take these excuses of doing Dharma practice and actually running away from responsibilities. So that should not be suggested. Yeah. Sitting in Paris, I have one question, Geshe. I have been struggling with this feeling of guilt when I wake up, like I am not doing enough. Do you ever experience that? And if so, how do you handle it? No, we do develop kind of feelings, but don't pay too much attention to those feelings. And if you have that very good motivation, trying your best, that is enough. You are an ordinary human being. You can't stretch yourself to the limit. Okay? You can't stretch yourself to the limit. The important thing is, whatever you achieved, enjoy that. Be happy, rejoice. That will give you more energy to do many more things. Okay? So instead of accomplishing one thing and doing one thing perfectly, if you keep on thinking, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, you're going to kill yourself. You'll not be able to do that. So do one thing properly, nicely. That will give you more energy to do the second thing. When you do that properly, that will give you more energy to do the third thing. So success will be much, much quicker by attending to what is there at your disposal, not just thinking about doing everything. No, you can't do everything. There's no need to do everything. If you're thirsty, you need to drink water, but not the whole ocean. As simple as that, right? So the problem with us is normally we don't even drink water. We are like a person drowning in the ocean. Because that person is drowning, he can't drink water. But that doesn't mean he's not thirsty, he's thirsty. Right? Okay. Yeah. The mic.
Geshe Lhakdor, Tugyundun, Semnang Yakani Kartik, Ranzu, Baby Chiso, Nangla, Salon Chibi, Kugil, Teche, Tanganzunam Gune, Chick Suman Jingi Lhakdor, Change Meva Imena, Mikuma Imene, Guti Nere, Kinduba in Karine, Telaya, Mixeg that Kinduba Imena. Telea Manzu Chikta, Kusha maybe number 2, but number 2 Ludianchik Tunga that didn't come my image. Chidangi, didn't maybe any double Duru candidate. Pemus statistics, some
So now we are discussing in Tibetan, which is actually encouraging you to learn 18-hour Buddhist, the Tibetan language classes. So, di dusre di. Tiki desen tangbo di nganzu suyina, taba da lama da meja suyina. Nganzu ki samlo korse da tense sangwa da langlen tar tuku mare, tuye kora yo mare. Yina kang tuptup langlen tar kore. Kang tuptup langlen matar ne da xejang xejang che dana chiga ping mare. Di langlen tar kore. Yina ya nganzu mi kyu mare. Tawa yina da lama yina da ko che magaji kuyandera ma doke, tinga sangwa mi kyu mare. Chuma yindi langlen tar ma tuba mangu yung kore. 뒷삼지 그 밑에를 그저 매워치에디 느끼어 말해. 제단에 조전이 14고 시와에는 심지탐지를 그저 채고를 세고로. 심지탐지 약부장자 말와. 이나 콜레 이야기 차도 소리 되네 그저 없이. 다 누구 차든데 망고 쉬우치 뭐요는 다 디젤은 당주여 말해. 다 디리 포인트 오디. 페나가조 라마도 딱 개체쇼데 라마당 고티. 다 디나네 라마시디 고자 체리시디. 디나라 망고여레 밍라마 여르마도기 조바 뺑게거든데요. 당아도 그 라마 밍이요나 딱제 코라마제네 디젤 주도도와 어디 지지요 말다. 디 지지요 말해. 강자르메든 추르된 식도와 강자데 밍케라치 뭐 요마요 계자마리 디 컨디치도 추 컨디치도 냠랭 컨디치도 딜다네 제버시디 다 디젤은 주지요 말해. So he's basically asking, in our society we do see, people among the lay people, among the ordained people who has this idea of doing something but not able to do any practice. So, then especially when you see some leaders or some higher spiritual gurus, when they also don't, do what they teach, and especially they lead negative behavior. So, how should we deal with this person? So I was suggesting that in general, we are all human beings, so we may not be able to practice everything that we preach, but at least we should make attempt to practice. Do some practice. That's the most important thing. And then the second thing is when you do see some leaders or great lamas, so-called great lamas, not only not practicing what they teach, but doing the other way around, then your responsibility is not to follow these people. Gandhiji is a non-cooperation movement. That's really important. Because we do see many people, unfortunately, majority of the people are, they have this blind faith and don't have this much education, so they can't make decisions. So whatever that so-called Lama does, good things, bad things, they still say, oh, this is a great deed of the Lama. That Lama produce a baby in me. This must be a special deed or blessing of the Lama. This is stupid. You're raped. You're exploited, but still you say, oh, this is a great deed of Lama. That is wrong. That's a sign of a rotten society. So use our common sense. Use our common sense. As I already explained the example of this lady who came to me. Right? So that's important. Okay, one more question, then we stop.
Can you sing again?
Huh?
Can you sing again?
One more question, then we stop. Yeah.
Does that count as a question?
No, that's not count. That is not even. That did not reach even the semi-final. Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about distinguishing between true insight and ignorance and delusion. And particularly because I think when I've been talking to some of my friends who don't come from the same background for something,
Yes.
like if you've never heard of samsara or
Yeah.
this can sound like an outlandish idea.
Yeah.
So even if you see a benefit from the practice, it can
Yeah.
be hard to distinguish wanting to believe something versus
Yeah.
taking something on blind faith.
Yeah.
So if you could just talk a little bit
Sure.
about
So the number one thing is,
that.
you don't preach those people who are not ready. Especially, don't use, as you use the word, don't use those bombastic words, difficult words like samsara, nirvana, all those things for a novice. To these people you can tell them, okay, anger is not good for you. Hatred is not good for you. In Buddhism, this is called negative emotion. Okay. So that's why His Holiness is talking about teaching secular ethics, teaching universal ethics, social, emotional, ethical learning. Because in today's world, out of the more than 8 billion human population, there are believers. There are non-believers. There are those who are totally against religion. But all these three sections of people, they all need good life. They all need happiness. So therefore we should come up with a way of life which is common sense, which is universal, which is scientific. So talk about those things. Because our aim is not to make anybody Buddhist. If the objective is to make everybody Buddhist, then Buddha should have achieved this long time before. Who am I to try to do this, right? So the purpose is to help people to become a little bit more sane, because it's insanity that is destroying the world, right? So approach from that humanistic, universal level is better. Then gradually when he goes a little bit deeper and wants to learn more, then you can say, oh, maybe you're interested in what the Buddha is saying. Take there, right? Okay. Okay. Good night. Thank you. See you tomorrow.